Hi, my name is Jason Elsgood. I'm a born and bred Aboriginal Territorian and a keen recreational fisherman living in Darwin on Larrakia country. My company, Crosscultural Consultants, have been working with the Northern Territory Seafood Council in the development of a cultural education and representation project aimed at fostering greater cross-cultural understanding within the fishing industry here in the Northern Territory. This is part 2 of a 6-part podcast series, and today we will talk about why cross-cultural competence is the key to success when working with Aboriginal communities. All cultures are underpinned by a set of beliefs, values, attitudes and behaviours which determine how they will interact with each other and with people outside their world. For example, in Western-based cultures, people have built a culture which allows them to live in a world of strangers and to deal with people they do not necessarily know well, potentially across vast distances, but with the aim of being productive. While even in this there can be issues which arise, and there are cultural differences in the wider Western culture which can lead to issues and conflicts. Aboriginal people have been in Australia for around 60,000 years, and they have built a culture which is unique to this land, and that has allowed them to exist in a space in which there was little interaction with strangers. The people they live with in their life were related to them through kinship, and they are tied together through ceremony. As a result, Aboriginal people have formed a way of being and seeing the world which is quite radically different from a Western standard. Neither of these views is right or wrong, but in certain settings one will come to produce better outcomes than the other. In a Western setting, where we have very much a value on productivity, financial return, sustainable production, we have a way of being and interacting which reflects what we value. On the other hand, Aboriginal people have a view that you share what you have based on your relationships, and sustainability is less about production and more about only taking what you need and leaving the resource for others into the future. This is a culture which has no visible means of exchange. Instead of society running on the value of money, Aboriginal society is centred around interpersonal obligations. Unless we can understand and step outside of our own worldview and attempt to gain insight into another, we cannot hope to understand, design programs, or share meaningful relationships with someone whose worldview is so drastically different from our own. As such, cross-cultural competence is a key element in successful relationships for anybody working in Aboriginal communities and with Aboriginal people. It is also crucially important for Aboriginal people as they try to figure out how to work with the dominant culture, which has many impacts on their lives, and not all of these are positive, despite well-meaning intentions. That's all for today's podcast. I would like to thank you all for listening. This has been part 2 of a 6-part podcast series for the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Cultural Education and Representation Project. To learn more, visit www.ntsc.com.au or check out the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Facebook page. This project has been delivered by Cross-Cultural Consultants and the Northern Territory Seafood Council with funding from the Australian Government.